Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour, sponsored by Lake Monster Brewing, Eastside Jiu-Jitsu, and That's Badass Wood Art. Remember to use promo code CT Pocket for 20% off any one item at That's Badass Wood Art. We're back, guys. This is our first live show since probably the draft when Ryan showed up super drunk and
sauced, made people upset.
Was upset by the Mekhi Blackman pick. But it's good to be back. How are you two doing?
Living.
We got some people in the chat already. Damon. What's up, Viking fans? He goes, he's fired up. We heard Tay Gowan was turning heads today. That's probably Luke Braun stuff. Luke Braun was tweeting out a bunch of stuff about him. But we got a lot of talking points today. I think it was a good day of practice. Kind of, it's the second week. It's hard to read in to kind of the performances here, but let's get into a couple guys that have kind of stood out.
Damon said, "Slow your roll, homie."
What's up?
He was in the building. Get it right, son.
Oh, apologies.
He said, I am the source. I am the source.
I am the source.
All right, Damon. Who else was standing out? Throw it in the chat for us, because all we have to go on today is Twitter, since none of us were really out there. So I'm just going to start off with the most obvious one. It's one that we all kind of were happy about back in April when he was drafted, but it's Jordan Addison, who has just really been playing super well. The clips that you see of him are exactly kind of like what we anticipated. But really, and I have a clip here from Kevin O'Connell that I'll play, but just the nuance of the position and how he's standing out.
Yeah, he's off to a really good start. Completely put his issue from the spring behind him. He put in the work throughout the summer, so that was really not something I was particularly concerned about. But what he's done on the grass so far is confirm a lot of the things that we expected from Jordan. He's also done some things instinctively, just playing football within the confines of our scheme, whether it's a scramble drill. People probably saw that catch in the corner of the end zone. That's him improving with a 12-year NFL quarterback to be in the right place at the right time. And he's done that on little things. He's showing a willingness to be a blocker. He's showing understanding of how he fits within the scheme and the rhythm and timing of the quarterback in the pass game. So I'm really excited about him. It's incredibly early in his process, and making sure he knows the daily goal of just having the best possible Tuesday practice he can have. And then, we roll right into the next day, and before you know it, that compounded gains, starts to really look like something not only he can be excited about, but the confidence level his teammates and coaches will have in him will be really something that he's earned.
About him over this past week?
Yeah, he's off to a really good start.
That was a long soundbite now that I just played it back, but
it's all good though. I don't think anyone's going to complain about hearing wonderful things about Jordan Addison.
No. What do you guys think about that though?
I thought it was funny that the spring was mid-July, but that's funny. But no, like for me,
are you talking about like his mix-up? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, because Kevin O'Connell said he's passed his issue in the spring, and maybe he was talking about the back issue he had.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the injury, but yeah, go ahead.
The injury? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. No, it's good to hear. I think Jordan Addison was the guy I wanted the Vikings to draft at 23, receiver wise, and I think he kind of fits the bill of what I thought they could use, and I think he's showing that this early so far in camp, and I think with the pads on, he's just showing even more that he's an instinctive player that's smooth. He's a good route runner. He knows how to create separation, get open. And I think they're going to be able to utilize him in a lot of different ways that'll complement what the rest of the pass game can do in JJ, TJ Hawkinson, and KJ Osborne. So, again, I'm just excited to see him continue to progress and grow in this offense and kind of see he'll probably I wonder if he'll get some early reps in preseason games. I'll be curious about that, but just the early part of the season too, like how involved they'll have him be the first couple of weeks and see if he's ready to go like full go or not.
You want to risk that?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Ryan.
Right. Oh my God. Over here. My bad.
Uh,
Yeah.
my question wasn't great. So if you had a better one, I was just saying, would you even risk putting Jordan Addison out there, especially with the injury from the spring?
I mean, I think you could throw him out for like a drive or two. I don't think that's a series or two. I don't think that's a big deal. But no, he shouldn't be like a rookie like Zim would do, where he's playing him like, too many snaps in a game and that type of thing. He doesn't need that, and especially these was it week 2 of preseason, they'll have the inter squad scrimmages. Like, he'll get a lot of reps in those, and so he probably shouldn't even need to see reps in preseason games because of that type of stuff. But I'm just saying, like, if they wanted to throw him out, having a series or two just to kind of get his feet wet in an NFL game, that type of thing, that atmosphere is different. So I don't have any issues putting a rookie out there for a play or two or a series or two.
All right, Jason, what was your question?
I was just going to ask Myles how he thought that, because like last year, second half of the season, Hawkinson kind of, was the de facto second target, and Addison coming in, just the way that, it looks like he's really everything that you said he was going to be. Now that he's out there practicing against, NFL players, he's still out there balling, still toasting folks. So I'm just curious for your thoughts on like how that target split might look next year. Like, do you see Addison coming in like right away and demanding targets for himself, or do you see it being something that's a bit closer as the season goes along?
I think he's gonna have to earn it early in the season. I think it'll definitely be JJ and Hawkinson and even KJ Osborne as like the first guys, and I think Addison's just gonna have to earn it on the field. Now I think he's the type of rookie who's going to build that trust up and build those opportunities up as the season goes. But I think early on, especially, it'll be those three first, with him mixed in, and I think he'll see plenty of run and plenty of opportunities. But obviously, I think he won't see like that lion's share of an opportunity probably until the season goes on, or obviously, knock on wood, if an injury happens or something. But like he's definitely a guy that I think they want to get involved early, but they're not going to feature him the way that he might, at the back end of the season or even into his sophomore year.
Awesome.
I'm just so excited for like all of these weapons. Like, I don't think we've quite had a solid 1 through 4 option to throw to for a quarterback in God knows how long. Like, it was always kind of Diggs, Thielen, Rudolph, and then whoever else.
That was a good trio. But you're right. They never had that like third, fourth guy that could really go in and create a mismatch.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And I don't know if you've seen some clips too, just even of Josh Oliver out there. And I know I'm trying not to just like go full on fanboy on the bit here, but when you watch the highlights and you haven't seen football in God knows how long, there's just something inside you that's just like, hell yeah, it's football season. But Josh Oliver,
he's big, and
he just manhandled Marcus Davenport yesterday on a run play.
That's gonna help. That's gonna help the run game.
Yeah,
that's gonna help the run game in a big way, and they need that. Like, they really need that on this offense. The run game needs to be better.
Should we ask our insider Damon how? Like, I was reading that Madison hobbled off the field. Like, we good, not good. Damon, has anyone read anything? Do we know what's going on there?
Well, he's asking us right now if we're feeling that Cousins mojo from last season, because he's more comfortable, and I think a lot of people kind of think that this offense is going to be a top offense in the league. Hell, we even had Flip on the show the other day, and he was saying that he was excited for Kirk Cousins, and that's saying something.
There's no reason the offense shouldn't be really good. Like, that's never been.
Yeah, the offense should be good. Yeah,
Myles, dad duty.
Yeah, I didn't get Isaiah Milk apparently, so that's my bad.
No, Kirk Cousins mojo. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I know what that is, but I expect the offense to be good.
Hey, Jay, what you said in our group chat?
Like, are they going to get him some new chains this season?
Yeah, he's fed up, man.
No, I think Kirk's going to be Kirk. Like, Kirk is, if anything you can say about Kirk, Kirk is a professional through and through and through and through. Yeah. He's going to come to work ready to do what he needs to do. And something that's always, like we've always said, is that the more weapons you get around any quarterback, the better that they're going to play. And Kirk is going to go, he's going to make the right decision. He's going to make the right reads. And to Matt's point, like, there's likely going to be someone open for him all the time, given the way that this offense is going to be constructed. And I mean, based on the way the defense looked last year, like we're gonna need that. We're gonna really, really need this offense to be like a top 5 type of offense in the league. And like they have the weapons to do it. They continue to be looking to invest in the offensive line. Like, so I mean, they weren't great last year, but like they're investing heavily in it. They're still bringing people in. So yeah, I expect Kirk Cousins to do really, really well. And I don't think that any of us should be satisfied with anything less than like exceptional play from Kirk Cousins all season, given everything that's been put around him, which is all anyone has ever said. Like, get him all of this and he's supposed to ball. So the expectation is that he balls.
We didn't get to talk to you guys about the Danielle Hunter stuff, but well, I talked with Myles, but Jason, we didn't get your view on it. What is your view on that Danielle Hunter thing? Because it definitely seems like they're down to be competitive this year, but beyond this year is a big fat question mark.
I think when we had Eric Eager on the show, I think he summed it up. Like Kwesi's playing like what Eric would have called like the long tail of the probability. So like they're not tanking. The Vikings aren't going to tank. That's not a thing. It's not going to happen. So if that's what anyone's expecting or hoping for, like they've already let us know that that's not going to be a thing. But it's also a somewhat long shot for them to be like a Super Bowl team this year, just based on like what the defense looked like last year, new scheme, all the moving pieces. But if things hit just right, they could be very good. Like the offense is great, should be great. The offense should be great. And we've seen Flores and other places make miracles happen. And so like there's a chance that this team could be in the ranks of the elite teams in the NFL this year. Like that's actually like a possibility. And I don't think that's something we would have said it like last offseason or even the offseason before that. But like there's actually a chance that could happen in this upcoming season if things fall right for the Vikings. So Kwesi seems to be giving them a chance for that to happen. But there's also a chance that it could go the other way as well. And like it's almost like the Vikings can't really lose, because if it goes horribly bad, then like they're in a better position to potentially get their quarterback of the future and all of those sorts of things. And so it feels a bit like for this season, they're kind of trying to play both sides of it, where like, if it all goes right, then hooray, we make a deep playoff run. But if it all goes bad, like, we got a bunch of dead money we're going to eat next year. And like either a rookie or a veteran who's not very good will likely be here. And like, we're going to be kind of suspect next year, like the season after. So yeah. I'm fine with it. He's a great player. He's a great player. He gets more money, which is good for him. Gets to get into the market, hopefully after a healthy season, also good for him. And like we get to watch him play for another season. Good for us. So like,
and it's not like he like broke. It's not like he broke the bank either. And I know it's a lot of money. But like it's not like they were like, here's $25 million. They didn't even give him a multi-year deal that created like long-term uncertainty or like cap, like that created like less cap flexibility. Like everything the Vikings this offseason and Kwesi's wanted to do is continue that flexibility beyond 2023. And this still does that. I don't know how much he might have pushed some of his like 2023 money into 2024 with the what does he have?
Voids.
He had the what's that?
You say the void years or
the void years?
Yeah, the void year. We don't know like the details if he pushed or how much they might have pushed into the future years, but
we haven't gotten those volumes.
No, we haven't. But I would assume it, hopefully it's not too much. But either way, it's still that like keeping that flexibility for 2024 and beyond, so that they can continue to build around the guys like JJ, Darrisaw, all those younger guys that are like elite level top tier that haven't even hit their prime yet. And Danielle's kind of on that back end of that prime. So I can understand why Kwesi was hesitant to give a deal beyond this year.
You guys, by the way, had like the exact same response. Jason, yours to Miles's on Monday or whenever we recorded that podcast. So that was kind of funny. Nick says, what if they just stay the same though? Like just middle of the road, the last few years. You think Kwesi's job is like?
No.
I don't think his leash is short. If
last year bought Kwesi time, guaranteed. Like there's no way it, because what him and KOC did last year, winning 13 games, even if they got booted in the first round, is they showed ownership that the biggest issue was the current regime, the old regime. Like whether and I think we all believe that it wasn't just like Zimmer and Spielman as like the only issues, whatnot. But clearly, the margins were better last year with Kwesi and KOC and the coaching staff. So I think they proved that there's opportunity to then extend that leash, but also like give them those opportunities to rebuild a roster in an unconventional way, because Kwesi doesn't want to rebuild it in this like staying in the middle ground, but he has to. And so he's kind of just making with what he's got. And I think he's doing a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And it's even like the way I think that they're going to look at the defense. Just like you can see it kind of going that way. I can't remember who said it in the group chat, but like looking at maybe like a Kansas City sort of model and for what you're going to do on defense, where like acknowledging that, offense wins in today's NFL. So we're going to spend a lot of our money on that side of the ball. And we're just going to take shots at like high upside players on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to get a lot of young athletes in here and an aggressive scheme and kind of just see what happens. And like, with that, you can get like the highest of highs if it all clicks on the defense, but you can also get it going the other way if it doesn't. But I think we're going to see the team like take bigger swings than they have historically, where it felt like in many ways, like the old regime of the Vikings played to like that middle ground was like, okay, because like we're not getting embarrassed. And like that seemed to be like the biggest fear of like the old regime is like something going horribly wrong, where it seems like this regime is more willing to take some swings on things that might not work out, but if they do hit, like the upside is going to be really, really high for them. And I think that's all many Vikings fans have been looking for, is like, let's take some actual shots to see if we can get in there and like win something versus like just trying not to be bad all the time.
Well, and Jay, to that point, those swings aren't like we saw with the older regime. The swings were like, here's a 2nd round pick for a rental and Unique Igakwe. Here's a 5th round pick for a fucking unknown kicker punter. Right? Like, but where Kwesi's taking it, like besides the Jalen Reagor was a little pricey, but like that wasn't anything that like truly has a negative impact long term. But he's not making swings that like hurt them long term. He's not sacrificing anything truly long term to take some of these swings. He's signing short term deals and for free agents. He's doing, he's being very calculated in how he's making decisions, where I felt like Rick was being a little bit more like literally pushing chips consistently all in and trying to like make up for some of the areas by staying expensive. Whereas I think Kwesi's done a good job of reformulating the entire roster, where it's like, it's not like just a truly top heavy roster anymore. There's a little bit more of that middle tier that's like better than the middle tier that we had a couple of years ago. And so you start raising the floor of that whole team, because those backups and those third strings are actually NFL caliber players that can step in and play a couple of games if you need them to. They're not just like truly replacement level. They're solid depth players with potential. And that I think is really important. And one thing that I think gets missed, and kind of where like the Vikings are going, is how they're retooling this roster.
And there's a long-term vision in a lot of those moves too. Like even back to free agency in their first year, right? When they made the signing for Johnny Munt, not a starter, but they signed him to a 3-year deal, 2-year deal?
No, it was a 2-year, but a vet minimum deal for both years.
Right. And that's a smart move. But even the TJ Hawkinson move is
Amen.
Yep, let's go, Damon. Are JJ, Addison, TJ, and Madison a top 5-7 offensive unit?
They have a chance to be.
They could be.
Yeah. I think it would be.
I'm going to say, what metric are we looking at? Like, I would say that, it's very possible that like the hope is that they don't get a chance to be by raw numbers, because we're actually winning games and bleeding the clock. So like, I guess it depends on how you want to look at it. But I think potential wise, absolutely, they have a chance to be dominant just based on the skill that all of those players have and the potential there. And if Kirk, Kirk's mojo, if that's what we're calling it now, is like, Kirk is locked in, because that's the other thing. When Kirk is locked in and like Kirk is like playing well, like Kirk is as good as, I won't say as many of the top kind of tier of quarterbacks. He's not in the Mahomes tier, he's not Joe Burrow, but like, maybe like just, the next group of folks under there when he's dialed in. And like with these weapons, I think, but some of it also is going to come down to Kevin O'Connell. Like, as Kevin O'Connell continues to grow and develop as a play caller. Like there were definitely some places I think last season where things maybe got a little too cute, and so I think that'll be a place as well where it's not just going to be the players, it's going to be everything around them and how that development goes as well.
Did you guys hear about the report that Cousins had like that half hour? It's not a presser, but just like speech to the team, and they just were wowed by it. Did you hear about that?
I mean, yeah, I feel Kirk's a smart dude. I think Kirk's like one of those guys. He has like this like coach mentality to him. So every time he speaks, he sounds like a coach. He sounds like, and I think players resonate with that because it can be relatable. And obviously coaches love that because it's like having another coach on the field. But like Kirk gives that energy though. He gives that like, he may not be this like huge rah-rah guy, but he definitely gives that like, he's super intelligent. He knows the game. And like when he talks ball and he talks it in a way that like he can relate to his teammates, I think that's when you saw last year he really was able to like shine a little bit more, is because his teammates felt like they could actually relate to him. I could be wrong, like that's just from an outsider's perspective, but Kirk has always, at least from my perspective, felt like it's been hard to be relatable to him, and I think there might have been some of that being held back from the old regime, whereas I think O'Connell and things kind of just like let him embrace who he is and the type of person, player, all that stuff to combine. And I think that the team took it in a different way as well.
Have they legalized it in Minnesota yet? Because I feel like that's
today.
I feel like that's when Kirk can just go home and pop a gummy or something and just like chill out is when the team is really going to go to the next level.
That man ain't doing that. But yeah, for real though.
let's talk about some of the stuff today at practice and get your guys' thoughts on that. So I'll just kind of go down the list here and you just jump in on if you want to talk on any of these points. So Ivan Pace played with the first team defense today and actually got a shout out from Brian Flores.
Did they say which linebacker position he was playing?
Damon said he was there, so
I haven't
no, he said he's high right now. So.
Hey, Damon's having a good time, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Damon's doing it the right way.
Thank you for hanging out in the chat. You too, Nick.
No,
we like seeing you in there.
I'd just be curious, like which position they have him slated. If it's Hicks or if it's Asamoah's spot, the middle linebacker, or the weak side linebacker spot. So
well, I did see Troy Dye also was on the first team replacing Hicks as well. So maybe it was in Asamoah's spot. But Flores did kind of talk about he was asked the question about Ivan Pace being undersized as a linebacker, and he pretty much was just like, there are guys throughout the league that are undersized that still play well. So just kind of squashing that, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Ivan Pace with the first team. If he can be a guy that sticks, kind of like who was the linebacker a few years ago that we had on draft out of Cincinnati too? How am I blanking on his name? He wore 50. Eric Wilson. Pace can kind of have that type of like depth and line and special teams ability, I think. That's just that those types of players go a long way for teams because they're super cheap, cost controlled for 3+ years as a undrafted free agent. And so like those guys go a long way for building a roster up. And so if Pace can be even just that'd be huge.
The other notes, Tristan Jackson injury today, who's carted off the field, which what I presume is probably a season-ending injury of some capacity. So that's unfortunate because I did hear that he was playing pretty well. And I think when we previewed the offense the other week, that was somebody that Ryan called out as somebody he was looking forward to taking the next step. Alexander Madison and Andrew Booth also got hurt today.
Andrew Booth is the one there that, like, for me anyway, like obviously like Madison is primed to step into a bigger role in the offense, but I honestly feel like if the offensive line does what it's supposed to, like we should be able to get by with kind of any of the running backs that we have now. Like none of them are going to be like a Dalvin Cook type difference maker on their own.
He's still out there.
So yeah. But Booth Jr. is the one where like the secondary, like we need talent back there, and like they need some of this young talent to hit And like we're really running the high risk, high reward thing with like the guys that we have left over there. So Booth is one that you hope maybe they're just, being cautious, just given the history. And you hope it's nothing serious, because like we need those young, like we need all the young guys. That's the thing. We don't just need like starters. You need like all of them, because like cornerback's a place you got to have depth, just with the way things go in the NFL and the fact that people are going to get nicked and that they can't play the entire game. So like,
yeah.
The thing
I think it's disappointing. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just saying, the thing that's sad to me about the Andrew Booth stuff is like, fans will look at the Lions and their Jameson Williams situation right now and like how he hasn't really lived up to the expectation because he's been injured, and then the gambling stuff. And I think there was another thing the other day, and the Vikings are like, oh, well, we won that. But at the same time, we're sitting over here and Andrew Booth is kind of struggling. And even in the games he's played, we haven't really seen a whole lot from him. And so it's just like, it just kind of feels like a Mike Hughes situation to me. Like,
oh no,
hey,
how dare you? Myles will not let that stand.
Are you still standing him right now? He's on like his 8th team.
He's on the Falcons.
He's always on the Falcons now. Wasn't he with the Lions for a stint last year?
He signed a 2-year deal with the Falcons. That's my guy, man.
We need the cornerback whisperer Zim to come back, I guess.
No, well, so with Booth, I think besides the injury stuff, like you obviously want him to stay healthy. I want everybody to stay healthy. But even before that, it didn't sound like he was getting the same type of run as like the Mekhi Blackmans, Caleb Evans, and all the other young cornerbacks. But obviously Byron Murphy's kind of entrenched himself as the number one corner, but he didn't really seem to be the guy that was getting some of those opportunities with the first team. Like it sounded like he was rolling with the second team, like, consistently. And I'm not saying that's like an awful thing, but you would have liked to see him get like Mekhi Blackman being a 3rd-round pick, a rookie, and he's already getting those first team reps, from jump.
Yeah.
And it would have just been nice to see in year 2 after recovering if Booth could have just like had a little bit more of that to him. Whereas, because like at Caleb Evans too, like he had injuries last year and he came in this year and he's already entrenched as what seems to be that like second cornerback. And so just would have been nice to see Booth get a little bit more. Maybe, and it doesn't mean he's washed. It doesn't mean he's like a bust or anything yet. I think it's obviously still too early, but it just would have been nice to see. And maybe we will see, and hopefully he's okay too. That's obviously the biggest part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even I think Jojuan Williams is pushing for a lot of those reps too.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid like depth piece. He's like probably dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Do we think that's real, Myles? Like him getting the first team reps? You think that's an indication of anything other than him knowing the scheme, or do you think that that's something that could be real?
The former, where I think it's the vet knows the scheme, he knows, so he can go out there and play faster right away, and then the younger guys need to catch up. But the younger guys probably have an easier opportunity to catch up and pass him. But I think he's still good depth because he knows the defense. He's hungry. He's obviously been hurt. And so I think there's that type of like, and he brings a different element to that cornerback room that they don't really have because he's that big physical guy. So like he's huge. And so I think that's just a different skill set to have. That's nice to have as part of your rotation. Whereas like Booth and Mekhi Blackman and Byron Murphy are those like shorter, shiftier type cornerbacks. And then obviously Caleb Evans is a little bit of that bigger type, outside type too. So I just think it's nice to have that variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Nick real quick. I'm with Nick on that. Like Andrew Booth was definitely like he was one of those guys that I think they felt there's potential. So they took a risk on the injuries because he was considered arguably like a 1st-round pick if the injuries hadn't happened. And so that doesn't mean he was going to be or live up to it. But like, I get why you take that risk, like that position, that take those risks in the 2nd round. I got no issues with that.
Yeah. We've kind of gone through some standouts here for training camp thus far. Is there any other names you guys want to jump into before we go to some of the questions that we got, and then the Dalton Risner rumors?
Let's hit these questions, man.
All right.
Yeah, let's hit them.
First one comes from Nick Miller, who's actually in the chat with us this evening. His question is, outside of a Super Bowl, What's the next best case scenario for the Vikings through next April? Jason's already laughing. So I guess we'll let you take the lead on it.
What is it? Do we mean like winning the Super Bowl? Can like the next range of options be like getting to the Super Bowl, or is it like, are we looking at like range of outcomes?
Nick's here. He could clarify for us.
Clarify for us here, Nick. Because like I know that there's like, if we're looking at extremes, then like one extreme is you win it all. The other extreme is that you're so bad that like you're in the running for the top quarterbacks. I just don't know that the Vikings, it's possible for them to be. I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't know that it's possible for them to be that bad. Like, Kirk stays healthy. The floor of this team is similar to like the Adrian Peterson years. Like, you're always going to be in that middle range as long as those people are playing. So, yeah, Super Bowl on the one end. I just don't see the other, like, the bad positive range of outcomes being a thing. So it's like they win the Super Bowl. I think the next best thing is them having like a sustained run in the playoffs, like actually showing that, you know, they can actually
1 game
go
or
in
2 games.
No, like I would, let's say the championship game. Let's say the championship game. Like I want to see them like beat some good teams, or if it's not the Super Bowl, maybe lock up like, I don't know, lock up a top seed or something like that. I don't know. Just something that shows that they're actually like a good team. Because last year felt like some smoke and mirrors and like a lot of the lucky things going their way. So I think like if they don't win it all, maybe the next best thing for me would be them showing that progression is happening and showing that they're like, they are for real. Like the margin of victory is there. They actually have a positive plus minus at the end of the season, you know, like that sort of thing would be what I would say would be the next best thing outside of them like winning it all.
Yeah. Well, and this roster and the schedule is a lot harder, at least on paper, going into the season than it was last year. So I think if they can prove that they can sustain against this like schedule and do some of those things, that should say a lot as well.
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking on both of what you both said here, I just want to see like convincing victories this season. And like, I mean, you can have close games and I think that's fine. And you come out on top and you win.
Right.
Like,
it's
you
the
can feel
NFL.
good. You can feel good about those things. But there were too many games last year where it was just like, they weren't convincing to me to prove that we were a good team. And I would rather have, you know, a few more losses on this throughout the season and more convincing victories and like tough losses where we just lose by a little instead of the blowout in Dallas or the blowout with Philly, like those kind of games last year. So I think outside of a Super Bowl appearance, getting to the playoffs and just kind of showing that you are a good team, I think for me is kind of where I'm at.
How about this too? Is the Vikings haven't been to the playoffs in back-to-back years since 08-09. They're the Wild have done it. The Timberwolves have recently done it. Like the Twins have done it, but the Vikings have not done it in the last decade. So like even that in itself is a feat. Yes, I believe they should.
It'll be easier now with the extra seed too, though.
Sure, but
it
like
should be.
In general, it should be, but that hasn't always right. And but in general, like obviously, like make the playoffs, but like I want them to be better than that. But like they haven't made the playoffs in back-to-back years. Like that in itself needs to be it's like a new goal. It's like sad, but like. That's just like something that they haven't done in so long. Like that, I think fans forget about. We get so caught up in like, oh man, everyone's down in the Vikings, blah blah blah. They're not good. Like they're underrating the Vikings, and the Vikings like miss the playoffs, and then they'll make the playoffs the next year, and then people are like they're underrating us again, and then we miss the playoffs, and it's like, all right, like if we build that consistency, then that consistency will
do
come
something
from the
about
media.
it.
Yeah, do something about it. And so, like, I don't know.
I'm with you. I get what you're saying. If anybody else, by the way, in the chat watching has questions, feel free to fire them off. We're here for a little bit longer this evening. I
might have to bounce.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll take that.
Myles got to get the milk. Were you not paying attention?
Yeah, I just up the stairs. That ain't
good. The other question we got was from Troy Klongerbo on Twitter, and he just kind of asked, and this can kind of segue into our.
I know Troy. I went to high school with Troy. Shout out.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there we go.
And you said his last name right. Troy
did
Klongerbo.
I? Wow. I feel like I should have like an applause button for me to.
I mean, you control the sound. You can do that.
I can.
Right.
I can. All I have is I'm gonna do it just because I have it now.
You like that? You like
that? Anyway, his question was, what is a Dalton Risner contract going to look like, or what is he going to cost? And Myles, I think I'll let you take the lead on it because you had a good one pre-show.
Well, I think the tough part there is like this is start of camp, so the prices usually tend to go down. I think expectations were in like hitting free agency, you'd probably be in that like 7-8 million range, but obviously that didn't happen, and so I would guess in like the 2-3-4 million range, somewhere within that.
Yeah,
sounds about right. I think he's obviously better than the vet minimum, and I think if he was vet minimum, he would have signed in with the Vikings today. But I think he wants more than that. He wants more like financial security, and also probably wants an opportunity. And I think that is probably the biggest. Besides the money, I think the Vikings didn't sign him today because they couldn't guarantee him a starting job out the gate. Like, obviously, I think he could come in and probably push somebody for a job, but he would need to get up to speed. They're not going to guarantee him anything, and I think that's probably maybe one of the sticky points as well. But I think like a 1 year, $3 million deal with an incentive to maybe play time incentive to get to like 4 or something like that would make sense to me.
Do you look at the visit as concern for Ed Ingram and Ezra Cleveland, or is it more depth? Or I know I have my answer, but I'm curious to see what you guys think.
Well, for me, it goes back to like kind of what I said earlier. Is like it's fixing the bottom of the roster and improving the bottom of the roster. And so I think it might have to do more with like Chris Reed and like Chris Reed's injury. We don't know the extent of it. I don't think anybody knows the details.
Yeah.
But it was obviously a non-football injury. But if he's out like for a significant amount of time, or like they just don't believe he can come back and be like effective, then you obviously need to have that depth. But also like he raises that floor so that like he's not just a Chris Reed where like an Ed Ingram can hold him back even if Ed Ingram's not playing well. He's gonna take those jobs if those guys don't play well. Like that's the difference between a Dalton Risner and like Chris Reed or some of these other like depth pieces. And so I think that's another one there.
You feel the same way?
Yeah, I feel like Myles nailed that. Like even just kind of looking on over the cap right now, like Chris Reed's at 1.5 mil. I feel like somewhere in that range is where Risner fought, like a little bit above that. I think that's where Risner ends up coming in. And I think a player that has shown over the last few years, and I always end up going to like the pass blocking, and like it's been a decent pass blocker for all of the years that he's been in the league. That is a lot more than we can say we were getting from some of the folks across that interior line. So, if they are to sign him, I think like Myles said, he actually pushes some of the other guys that are there versus just a guy that's a body in case somebody goes down and you have to trot somebody out there, which again, just speaks to some of the flexibility that's being brought into how the roster is being constructed. And again, they're giving themselves, they look to be doing everything they can to give themselves a shot for this season. And then after this season, we'll see. But for this season, we're going to give ourselves a shot to do something, especially given that, the division seems pretty wide open. Rodgers is gone. The Lions just are supposed to do great things, but they're still the Lions. They haven't proven anything to anyone yet. The Bears are in the midst of a rebuild. So like, there's ever a season that we should make the playoffs, it should be this one. And then kind of what we do when we get there is up to, the coaching staff and everyone on the team. So
Oh, go ahead.
Didn't Risner play right tackle at one point in his career?
He played right tackle and center.
Yeah.
Do you think that this move could be an indication of maybe Brian O'Neill? You just shutting it down, not even going to entertain it?
Well, because they got Brando, they got Oli Udo, like they got Lowe.
Okay.
I just don't think like that's their worry. Like, and I think in a pinch, if you had a Risner and you needed him to throw him out at right tackle, I think that's a different situation. But like as an emergency, but I don't think they'd bring him in. Yeah, I don't think they'd bring him in to be like a backup tackle though. Like I just don't. That just wouldn't make sense to me. But Nick made the comment about I don't think this has anything to do about like Ingram. I think it's more just like again having depth in it. It's not about them not having faith in Ingram. It's Ingram was bad last year, and I think they're still committed to him being the starter. but that leash is just so much shorter than it you'd like it to be, and
Yeah.
it needs to be. Like you can't give these guys long leashes just because they were second round picks. And if he continues to really struggle early in the season, you need to have a solution for that. You can't just like let it. Oh, we just got to let him ride it out. Like no. If he's really like that bad again, then you need to have something to improve there. You can't just like let it ride again. Like it's just not one of those situations. Last year you could let it ride a little bit because you're obviously winning. He was a rookie. There's a lot of different variations there, but right now I just don't think you can just like let it ride if he's going to play poorly. And then also I think Ezra Cleveland's in a contract year, so like that's something to consider with just bringing in someone like I would love if they were to bring Dalton Risner in like a 2-year deal. But like,
Wouldn't
of course,
like
that'd be easier said than done. But like, if you could do like a 2-year, $10 million type deal, like something like that, obviously, I doubt that would happen this late in the season or in camp. But like in general, like if they could do that, then that you have someone solidified for next year because Cleveland is a free agent. But again, those are all things that just feel unlikely.
Yeah, well, it's to be determined on whether or not they sign Dalton Risner as they let him kind of walk out the door, and I think everything's kind of fluid. But
didn't they say like nothing was imminent? Like
I believe I saw Alec Lewis say that he had more visits lined up, so it's not just here. But it's that time of the year where these vets can kind of pick and choose, right? They just go visit these teams and feel what everyone feels best. It's what Dalvin Cook's doing. Dalvin Cook's on everywhere he goes, people are just cheering him on. You see the Jets fans were just chanting Dalvin Cook from the stands, and then he just heads on down to Miami. So it's just it is what it is. But well, that's all I had, guys, on the schedule. We got through our 2 questions that we got.
Hey,
which
you made it work though.
We
made it work.
We did, and we'll look to do more Q&As as the season kind of progresses. So if you have questions, make sure you're following us on Twitter. We'll figure out other ways that you can message us questions as well. But we look forward to the rest of this season. And Myles, Jason, do you have anything else before we depart?
I'll just say if you're looking for a good time, you probably want to hang out with Damon, but that's about it.
Oh, I guess we do have like somewhat exciting news again. Myles and I will be back. Sounds like Friday with Josh Metellus.
Yeah.
Again, he has agreed to come back and join and chat with us, and so that will be Friday.
We'll tweet that out when we get a little bit more info on that. But we're talking to him today.
Josh Metellus back on the show. Maybe Jason. Maybe you can join us
Friday. Man. I got to work my other job on Friday, man. I'm at the gym.
Which one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm at the gym, man. I'm at the gym.
You can take 15 minutes in an office, right? Or you just put your phone up and.
Yeah, we'll see. Do one of these and hope nobody falls into me.
Exactly. Too funny. Well, everybody, thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe, not only to the YouTube channel, but as well as wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Tons more content coming out. Football is back, and it starts Thursday night with the Hall of Fame game starring Kellen Mond.
There we go.
And so until next time, Skol Vikings.